Welcome back to another episode, guys. In this day and age, we've got a lot of what is nervous system resetting? How do you do that? Something about a vagal nerve. And honestly, I'm over it, and I know you guys are too. And I'm so happy to be talking to Ashley Arata today about her journey through all of that and how she's not a typical health practitioner coach. So, hi, Ashley.
Hey, Heather, thanks for having me today. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's just dive right into it. Your passion for your career stemmed from a very personal experience. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did not intend out of school to get into this work at all. I thought I was going to be in business and tech and marketing my entire career. I had this whole plan on paper that looked, amazing. I was going to go climb the corporate ladder, and I burnt that all down and started fresh a couple of years ago to become an integrative health practitioner and use root cause testing to help women heal. And I got into that because I went on my own chronic health journey after prolonged periods of work stress, going through grad school, reconstruction in our home, financial stress, everything kind of hitting at once, losing parents to cancer, getting married, life just started lifing all at the same time. And there's only so much our bodies can handle before things start crumbling and crashing around us. And
Yeah.
so I started experiencing some health related issues that led to me discovering a precancerous tumor on my thyroid. Had
Oh my
thyroid
God.
surgery, and my body just totally fell apart. So it was a multi-year journey, but integrative health completely changed my life and brought me to the work that I do now. So yes, it was not intentional by any means to get
Right.
into, but I'm so glad that I'm here.
How is that medically? Because a lot of women are just not believed. Like maybe it's your period, maybe you just need to lose weight, maybe fuck you, that's why. Like,
Yeah.
how was it trying to get that diagnosis when things just started going completely sideways? Because it took like 3 years for you to get any kind of diagnosis, right?
It did. It took me 3 years. So I started noticing changes in my body around 2020. Obviously, we were in COVID lockdowns. Getting a doctor appointment was quite difficult. Everything was virtual. Getting in to just get basic labs run was difficult. So around 2020, I started noticing that my body was not responding to normal things that I would do to manage stress and manage my weight specifically. So I started noticing my jeans getting tighter. But we're in the middle of COVID lockdown, so it's like, oh no, I'm not moving as much, I'm not walking as much, I'm not in the office, not getting steps in. The world's falling apart around us, so sleep's disturbed, right? So I chopped it all up to COVID related stress and work related stress. And
Right.
during this time, I was also working at big tech, so I spent about a decade working at Amazon.com. We were very busy during that time, as you can imagine. So I'm like, this is just everyday stress, no big deal. As we started transitioning out of COVID and my body wasn't responding still to the increased activity and the movement again, I went to the doctor like most women would and said, hey, I'm tired all the time. I can't sleep through the night. If I do fall asleep, I'm waking up from 1 to 3 a.m. I'm having trouble concentrating. I'm walking into rooms and I'm forgetting why I'm in there, what I walked in there for. I'm forgetting things in meeting mid sentence. What am I talking about? Train of thought. And so, yeah, I went to the doctor like any woman would, and they ran a basic thyroid panel, which consisted of two labs, Heather, just two
Yep.
markers. And they were like, you're good. You're fine.
Hmm.
It's not your hormones. You're just stressed. Try eating less and exercising more. And so, okay, we have been trained to blindly trust people in white lab coats, right? From birth. That's just how things work. And personally, I come from a family of nurses, RNs and nurse practitioners, both on both sides of the family, multiple generations. And so, yeah, absolutely. I was told to blindly trust the white lab coat and anything that they said. So I said,
Right.
okay, great. All right. I guess I'm tracking macros. I guess I'm cutting more calories. I guess I'm restricting more food. And I guess I need to work out harder. In hindsight, that was so detrimental to what was going on with my body and my thyroid.
Absolutely.
But I continued on that path for like a year, and it made
Hmm.
me so much worse. So
Yeah.
much worse.
Yeah. That is, I I have family that have literally I've gotten my thyroid tested a million times. And I'm pretty sure mine is normal, but it gets tested, it gets tested, it gets tested, and they don't test the antibodies and I think a lot of it has to do with insurance too. Insurance won't cover those antibody tests. So like your doctor could be a great, like my primary care is literally the best white coat I have ever met in my life, but they're limited by what insurance allows them and what Western medicine kind of allows them to do. So yeah, if those are fine, you're good. If your thyroid levels are low, they don't do anything about it until it's at a point where you have to be on medication for the rest of your life. And it's like, okay, but
Yes.
there's other things that we can be doing. Help. It's really frustrating. And I know this isn't just a women thing. I know that men deal with it too, because I have known men with low thyroid that
Yes.
are hyper, their thyroid's too high, but their levels were so wacky that like they were not normal whatsoever, but they weren't bad enough to be on meds. And I'm like, okay, so what do you do to support that in the meantime?
Yeah. The conventional care model is set up to wait until we are on the brink of full blown disease in order
Mm-hmm.
to start providing relief for people. And that's just a gap in the system. There's a number of reasons for that. The lab ranges that we use, you've probably heard the phrase, it's so mainstream now. I see it all the time on threads and whatnot, but normal isn't optimal. And that couldn't be more true. And what it means is just that in the conventional care system, they use these really, really wide lab ranges, and those lab ranges are based on population averages, which include sick people in the population. And I don't know
Yep.
about you, but I don't want to be normal compared to someone who is on the brink of full-blown autoimmune disease, right?
Yes.
I want to be optimal. I want to be in the very, very narrow center part of that range. And it's just a gap in the system. Conventional care, it's a very necessary part of this world. It is needed for
1000%.
acute injuries and illness. And I am so grateful living in the United States that I have access to emergency rooms nearby, all around me. But they are here to diagnose, and treat disease. And when we look at things on the other side from a functional medicine lens, it's really preventative medicine, right? It's lifestyle medicine. It's how do we prevent you from getting that horrible disease where then Western medicine needs to step in to begin with, right? And so it's a gap in the system, and it is unfortunate.
It really is because, I can picture somebody listening to this of like, how is medicine mental health? And it's like, because when you're dealing with chronic illnesses and being on that border of, am I sick enough for medication or do I just have to kind of suffer through this? That affects you mentally like nobody's business. And when you're trying to get diagnosed and you're trying to, medical PTSD is a thing, and I will
Oh,
die
yeah.
on that hill because I've been there, done that.
Yes. And it's extremely lonely and isolating.
It
That is
is.
another thing I would say, because when you're going through it, especially as a woman, if you are dealing with some kind of chronic illness and you're being told by your doctor over and over again, you're fine, you're just stressed, there's a level of shame that comes with repeated dismissal. When you're going to someone that society has told you to blindly trust for years, since you were born, since you were old enough to know how to say the word doctor, when you're going to that person and putting your hope and trust in them, and they're telling you, hey, what you're feeling and experiencing isn't actually true, that's a dismissal, right? And you are the expert on your body. You know how you feel and what is normal for you, what's your baseline and what isn't. And so when you've been dismissed repeatedly, it can feel hopeless. It can cause feelings of loneliness and isolation, depression, exhaustion. There are so many mental components to healing. And I just want to say, though, too, for people who are feeling that way, because I've certainly been there is so much energy and hope on the other side. There are so many people that still want to help you. But I do recognize absolutely that when you're in the thick of it, all of those feelings are valid and all of them are normal. Mental health is such a huge part of chronic illness.
It really is. I mean, it's just exhausting. When you finally got that diagnosis, what was going through your head and what were you feeling? Because was it anger? Was it relief? Was it what the actual F is going on?
I think there was a lot of confusion. So what happened with me is, and a lot of women experience this, is they had found benign thyroid nodules, growths on my actual thyroid, where once a year I had to go have a biopsy done, make sure the nodules weren't changing, measure the tissue, send it off to the lab to make sure it's not cancer. And they're like, nope, it's not cancer. Right? Great. Come
Yep.
back in a year. And meanwhile, the whole time I'm confused going, well, why are these growing on my thyroid to begin with? Does anyone have any idea like what is happening with my thyroid where I'm getting these irregular growths? And the answer that I would get every time is, this is totally normal. Millions of women have thyroid nodules. This is super common. It's nothing you have to worry about. The majority of the time, they're just benign. So to answer your question, when I eventually, and then one year, one of them was no longer benign and there were atypical cells. And they were like, oh, hey, by the way, this is precancerous now and you need surgery. We got to take half your thyroid out in order to mitigate this before it actually becomes full-blown thyroid cancer, papillary thyroid cancer. But it's just so much confusion to get the diagnosis and to be told, hey, yeah, you've got these growths on your thyroid and this is likely contributing to it being underactive and why you're so tired and why you're not sleeping well and why you're not feeling well and why you're gaining weight. But don't worry, we have a pill for you. It's like, okay, you feel validated to an extent, right? You feel validated that someone can tell you, okay, we did find something. There is something off. You're not insane. You're not crazy.
Right.
But then when you go why, when you want to go a layer deeper and you want to say, okay, great, I'm glad you found it, but what's causing this and how do we actually fix it? And they say, well, we don't know. Here's a pill. You'll be good. Just come back once a year and we'll check it and monitor it. That can be really defeating, right? And I think that was what finally got me down another path. At that point, I had no choice but to have the surgery. So I did. My body spiraled after. But that is what really, really was my catalyst that lit a fire into me every day. Was like, why? What's my root cause? Like, this is not the end of my road. This is not going to be my new normal. Once we start going down this path and things just keep spiraling, that's not a path that I want to go down. I don't want to be in that headspace. So I'm going to start asking hard questions. And if people in my conventional care circle can't answer them, then I'm going to look for alternatives.
Right. Now, when did you decide to go look for those alternatives?
When I was about a year post-op from my thyroid surgery, I had gained 40 pounds. I was having like insane hormonal rage episodes, Heather, like things that are just so illogical. Like when I look back where I'm like, that did not warrant that reaction. Like the spilled cup of water on the counter didn't need like a 20-minute crying episode, right? Like there's more to this story. And it was really my husband who was like, listen, Ash, like we got to talk about this. Like if you aren't getting answers, like what else can I do to support you so that we can try and help you feel better? And I just didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore. I literally, my face was so inflamed. I was so puffy. My moods, like I said, all over the place. And so I was like, you know what? You're right. This isn't it. This isn't the end of my story. And this is not my new normal. Like I'm not living in this space of crying for 20 minutes because I spilled a glass of water. Like life is too short for this. And that was really my catalyst to be like, okay, I needed someone else close to me to help me see almost how much my baseline had changed to go, we need to find a new solution. Like this ain't it.
Yeah. So walk me through how you found that solution because it's different for everyone.
It is a little bit different for everyone. So I was very lucky. So I live in Seattle and I'm very fortunate that we have access to great healthcare here. And it was actually at my 12 or 14 month post-op checkup with my oncologist. And I had previously at every checkup, they take your weight, right? They take all your vitals, they run blood work, they check your thyroid levels. And I had cried in every appointment. I had cried walking in, I cried in her office, I cried driving home because when you're just gaining weight that fast, when you are constantly like putting on clothes that don't fit, when you are just looking in the mirror and you don't recognize the person that you are, it takes such a toll on your self-confidence. And again, especially when you're being told like, hey, there's nothing wrong with your labs. Again, it's that dismissal, that isolation, that hopelessness that really comes up. And it was actually my oncologist who had a conversation with me too. My husband came to this appointment and she was like, listen, I'm hearing you both. We have done everything for you that we can with the toolkit that we have. Like,
Right.
we have exhausted what is available to us, but I'm hearing you. I'm looking at the numbers. Have you ever considered naturopathic medicine? And that just completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm so glad that I had access to that level of care where someone with MD after their name was willing and able to say to me, I've used the tools that I have and we've maximized what we can do for you. I'd encourage you to explore other paths. And so I did.
Yeah. And what, talk me through where things really started to improve once you brought Eastern medicine into the limitations where your doctor was.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those who maybe aren't familiar with Eastern medicine, or I would say, you may have heard some of the terms interchangeably online. You might hear integrative medicine, you might hear Eastern medicine, you might hear functional medicine. All of those modalities take an approach that looks at the underlying root cause of your symptoms. So if you're
Right.
going through something in your body right now, you're feeling off, and conventional care isn't able to diagnose you, functional medicine, integrative medicine, they're asking the question why, right? So they're looking at the actual root cause that might be correlated with your symptoms. And so for me, first and foremost, it was finding someone trusted who is able to run the right testing, who is actually willing and able to use functional lab testing that looks at the root cause.
Yep.
When we're talking about hormones, most people don't realize the correlation with our gut health also directly correlated to our mental health. There are so many studies that show bacterial imbalances and overgrowth of yeast and candida and all the things that happen in modern society when we get a little out of balance, how directly correlated they are with our moods, with our mental health, and also with our hormones. We actually produce and metabolize hormones through our gut. And so it was someone who was willing to look at not just 1 to 2 lab marker, but what testing do we need in order to assess hormone function in the systems that support our hormones both, because they go hand in hand. And as I started getting down that road, I realized I wanted more autonomy over my body. I no longer wanted to be 100% reliant and dependent on other people to give me answers. And so, in correlation with working with a skilled practitioner, I also went back to school. I blew up my life. I quit my corporate job. I burned everything down. I took a sabbatical. I traveled all over the world, and I went back to school and I worked on healing myself. And that started with my mental health, first and foremost, because you cannot out heal a brain that is not in the place to accept and invite healing into your body. I just don't, it's possible. And so that started with my mental health, first and foremost. And then from there, it was like, okay, what are the tactical things? What is physically wrong in the body and how do we support that? So it was a whole journey I went on. And one of the best things that honestly in hindsight has ever happened to me in my life, because it brought me into this work to help other people who are also experiencing these things now, with which are, if you look, have ever been on the internet, which most of us have, are literally billions of women.
Yeah. What was some of the biggest surprises when you started healing more naturopathically that you were just like, oh, it was really that simple?
Well, I think first and foremost, the volume of people experiencing this situation or in my same scenario was shocking, just period. I think talking about that feeling of isolation and hopelessness, I didn't really look initially for other women in my direct situation. Like, I was almost hiding, right? We talk about that shame piece involved in like the mental health of being in like a chronic illness journey. And I was almost hiding what I was going through because it would mean, as someone who's used to having her shit together, that I don't have it fucking figured out. And who wants to advertise that, right? Again, there's a stigma almost with that. And so I think for me, first and foremost, when I finally accepted, like, all right, I'm going to go on this journey and I'm going to be an open book about it, and I want to see who else is out there maybe navigating this, I was absolutely shocked how many millions of women just in the United States, and men too, are dealing with scenarios just like this and the toll that it's taking on their mental health. I would say secondary to that, I became so blatantly clear how the conventional medicine system is just not set up to be able to treat people holistically. they treat each system in the body as its own isolated separate piece. But the reality is everything is connected and talking to each other. We're a big set of dominoes. You tip something over on one side of the body, there's going to be a downstream effect everywhere. And so once I realized that, and I actually understood how my hormones worked with my gut and with food and the critical nutrients and minerals that we need for our systems to function, it was like, oh, we just have to put these things back into balance. And this is actually not going to take as long as I thought. And this is actually a lower lift than I thought too. It was almost shocking to me. Not to say that every step of the way was easy, but once you know what problem you need to solve because you had the right testing, everything from there gets so much easier, Heather, to figure out and to navigate, candidly.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense, especially once like you're really, really diving in. And then it's kind of just reminds me of that meme from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
Where the guy's just like,
yeah.
But I mean, so when you started kind of going into it for yourself, how were you able to dive into it full time as a career?
So when I started having results, the people around me noticed well before I gave myself even credit for the work that I was doing with my body, right? And people in my circle, friends, family, neighbors started coming to me and asking me, what are you doing? You're like glowing, you look so healthy, you look happy. Like, what's going on? You look amazing physically. And that's when I realized that I was absolutely loving this fucking work. I was loving digging into the medical journals, the studies, the science behind things, piecing things together. I was spending my spare time studying, researching, reading all about this stuff. I loved it. And so as I started doing work with friends and family, and then I started seeing their results and how good they were feeling and the things that they were coming to me and sharing and saying, and I was just lit up by it. And I think we listening to our intuition, right? That's a ping from the universe, in my opinion. Not to get too woo woo on you, but I am an integrative health practitioner with a side of woo woo. I love the woo woo.
We love the woo woo over here.
I love it. And when something lights you up like that, seeing other people be able to reclaim their vitality, tell you that they're sleeping normally again, that their mental health is completely 180, that they have a sex drive again, that they've lost weight, that they go to the gym, like all of those things just lit me up so much that I was like, there is no going back to corporate America after this. This is where I am. This is my mission. This is what I'm doing. Like, I am here to help people feel good in their bodies. And I'm very direct, if you haven't noticed in this conversation.
I love it. I love it.
I'm a very direct person, and I am not afraid to ask hard questions and challenge the status quo and challenge the system that is conventional medicine, because I know there's a better way. I also know that not everyone has my voice or the willingness to want to do that. And so I took a hard look at that and I said, you know what? This is my mission. I am here to support and stand up for the people who aren't being heard and to help amplify their voice and to help them find solutions too.
Now, when we're kind of diving into all of this, there's a, like, what's the word? Supplement for literally everything. And those can get so expensive. Do you think that the amount of supplements and the expense that it is also kind of holding people back from being able to dive into that extra layer of the body onion?
Without a doubt. And I always say this to my clients, supplements without the right testing first are a scam. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Like, there are certain things, if you live in Minneapolis in December, maybe take some vitamin D, right? You're going to need a little extra love and support for your body then. But when I see the rise of like supplement influencer culture online, right? Where it's like, take this, take that, whatever. It makes me cringe because knowing what I know as a practitioner, I know that some of those supplements can actually do more harm than good for people who don't need them. You can actually create a gut imbalance. You can actually create issues for yourself that you didn't have by taking supplements without the right testing. So I always tell people, don't just blindly invest, right? From an influencer. Don't just buy a supplement because you saw an ad for it. If you're doing this work and you're doing the right testing and you understand exactly what your body needs, you shouldn't need an arsenal of supplements that you're spending. I had one client, I'm not even joking, Heather, come to me. At the time we started working together, she was spending $700 a month on supplements.
What?
She had a container
Oh my God.
as big as this screen with five times a day. She had this many pills. Mind blowing. And I
But
was like,
pill
girl,
fatigue.
can you even imagine? I was like, girlfriend, no.
No.
Your body doesn't need all of that. We just need to plug the imbalances that are actually causing symptoms, and everything else is going to work as it should. And so, yes, I agree with you. I think it's a little out of control right now, and I think it can be a little slimy, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean the way that, and I'm not knocking influencers because I'm also a content creator, but like I
Yes.
think some of the ways that they sell these is like there's a level of shame to it where it's like, oh well, if you don't take this, like, oh, does your like breath smell? Well, take this supplement because then it won't, blah 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 blah, and you'll like rebuild your teeth with this, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, there's some fear mongering that can be. There's some of those marketing tactics. And listen, I get it. I'm online too. That's where the majority of my business comes in. So I also
Mm-hmm.
create content, and I get called a grifter every single day. In fact, if I'm not getting in a DM where someone is telling me that I belong in jail and I'm a grifter, it means I'm not doing my job with my content and trying to challenge what the status quo is in our space respectfully. Of course, I do it with the
Yeah.
utmost respect for the men and women in the white lab coats and the nurses everywhere and the practitioners doing the work. But yeah, I mean, it can be a little slimy if it's not done with the right intention, and if it is with the intention of just trying to blindly get as many people to click a link as possible and buy a supplement that they might not need, or that might actually create a problem for them down the line because they unknowingly are taking something that their body doesn't need.
I mean, case in point, I just actually found out that because everyone's like, take your B12, take your B12, and B12 is in energy drinks. And I know energy drinks are bad for you, but like you can pry them out of my cold dead hand. Um, Artificial B12 leads to kidney problems.
Yes, it can. Yep.
And I'm like, oh.
Yep.
So I guess my question, and other people are going to have the same question, how can you tell between artificial B12 and actual B12 on any kind of like drink or, because you have all these neurotropic drinks and this and that and pills, and even pills are artificial B12. Like, how can you tell the difference?
So there are certain ways when you read a nutrition label that you can tell whether or not it's synthetic, and that is if they provide details on the type of exact vitamin it is. So for example, with vitamin D, if a company lists just vitamin D on a supplement or nutrition label or a vitamin bottle without saying this is vitamin D3 or this is vitamin D2 or whatever type of specific subtype of vitamin it is, that is one way to tell. With other types of vitamins, it is extremely difficult and there is not always regulation around it, such as with B12. And really, the only way to know is you can contact the companies. There are people out there who literally email supplement providers, drink creators, and they want to know where their sourcing is. And if they can't answer that or they don't provide transparency for it on the label, if they're not proactively advertising that they are using a non-synthetic version of something, that typically tells you that the sourcing is more likely to be synthetic, and you may have to contact the manufacturer candidly. There's no easy way otherwise, right? Unfortunately, in the United States, we are in a let's make things as cheap as possible and not as healthy as possible manufacturing mindset. And so it can make it a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, I'm over here like I will not be making those phone calls. Like it's just,
Yeah. I mean, the
it's
average person,
exhausting.
it's one more thing to worry about that just
Mm-hmm.
puts stress on our nervous system too, right? Of like having to worry about every single thing that we eat, drink, touch. It's like, dear God, who has the energy for that, right? I get it.
Literally no one. And speaking of nervous systems, I mean, you're chronically online, I'm chronically online. It started off with, the vagal nerve reset, and now it's like, oh, you just need to completely reset your nervous system, and everyone has a solution for that. Everyone has some sort of vague program of like, oh, 21 days and your entire nervous system is going to be reset and blah 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 blah. I know you have quite the hot take on that.
I
Give it to
do.
me.
I'm like chomping at the bits. I'm like, this is all such bullshit. I think nervous system work is critical. I don't disagree with the amount of discussion about how important our nervous systems are, especially in an online world where we are just getting pinged 24/7. I think we're all in alignment there. What I have an issue with is the you just need to meditate more, go on a meditation retreat, or you need to do more breath work, or you need to sit in a sauna 40 minutes a day, or get a vibration plate, or get on a PEMF mat, or all these gadgets and things that are extremely expensive and take a lot of time to do every day to quote reset your nervous system. And the reality is that when we are chronically stressed for prolonged periods of time, which hi, hello, isn't that the majority of people living and working in the United States? This is a modern society.
Yep.
We become actually chemically depleted. We become chemically imbalanced. So we've got these little tiny walnut-sized glands that sit on top of our kidneys. They're called our adrenal glands, and they help our body actually mount a stress response when we go into fight or flight. And eventually, over time, when we've been in fight or flight for prolonged periods, we no longer have the reserves that we need to mount a stress response. You literally don't have the chemical response in your body anymore to react to stress. And there is no amount of vibration plate time or PEMF mat or sitting in the sauna or breath work or tea, whatever they're selling, that is going to reset that if you are chemically imbalanced. It is not going to rebuild that for you and fill your reserves back up. Just not.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone's talking about cortisol levels lately, and I know mine is, we're just not going to test those because I don't want to know. I just know that they're bad. But when you're going into, hey, how do we balance our cortisol? How do we start repairing our cortisol levels? And then you Google it, and there's 5,000 supplements. What, in your professional opinion, is a good place to start that isn't going to completely break the bank on kind of helping your adrenal glands and your cortisol and all of that, especially with, everyone's throwing out this magnesium and this, that, and the third, and the vibration plate and the cone of silence and the cone of shame and all of that.
Yeah. So rule number one for me when I look at a supplement is, and with the supplements that I use personally in my practice, first of all, when someone is completely depleted and their cortisol levels need support, there are literally only two supplements that I use, one in the morning, one at night. How much they need, how that's spread out, what time they take it is variable based on their test results. But when I am looking for supplements, what I'm looking for first and foremost foundationally is made and manufactured in the United States and third party tested for quality. The other thing that I'm looking for is, well, not looking for, I just don't buy supplements on Amazon. There is a lot of scam and fraud in the space. I don't buy my supplements on Amazon ever. I spent 10 years working there. I know too much. I just don't do it. So those are my three foundational things first and foremost. The last thing that I really like to look at is, how do I get the most bang for my buck in terms of the right groups of herbs or minerals or nutrients that I need in just one capsule? I don't want to buy, like girlfriend I told you about, I don't want to be spending $800 a month on supplements and taking 40 pills every 2 hours. That's just outrageous and exhausting. I want 1 to 2 things that I can take that are going to get the job done. And so it has a blend of the nutrients that I need based on what's going on in my body. So that's how I always approach and look at supplements. For our adrenals specifically, does it have a combination of things, or are you needing to try and piece together? I also don't want to open up my capsules and start mixing things. That's just ridiculous. And I'm not going to take 30 things. I don't have time for that. So can I get the most bang for my buck by having something blended already for me that's giving me exactly what I need?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Especially, well, I mean, I've taken adrenal stuff over the years and they're all so different. So different.
Yeah. So that's where it depends, and why I always like to say test, don't guess, because what your body needs might be different. Like what I take to support my adrenals, Heather, might be totally different from what you took and what you needed
Exactly.
and the time of day that you take it. And so blindly buying things off the internet, you know, if it is like, hey, I'm a college student and I get like mild anxiety before midterms, like, yeah, you can take a little ashwagandha before you go and take your exams. That's going to be totally fine, worth buying, keeping in your cupboard. But if it's a prolonged thing where you've been under extreme amounts of stress for a while, you're dealing with consistent anxiety, I always encourage people to get the right testing for your cortisol levels, work with a qualified practitioner, and they can help guide you on what you need. So you're also not wasting your money on supplements that aren't going to do anything for your body.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you right now, ashwagandha does not work if you are in the trenches long term.
Correct.
It's just it ain't helping. It's just
Nope,
not.
it's not. Not long term. Like I said, you got an exam or something coming up, you want to take the edge off before your test, just calm your nerves a little bit. Great. You know, you have a busy week. Sure. But long term in the trenches, deep amounts of stress, mental health overload, overwhelm, not going to do it for you. You need more targeted support for your adrenals, and those blends look different just based on what your body needs.
Right. So, how do you, as an integrative health practitioner, how are you able to combine East and Western medicine together? Because I know we've really harped on the Eastern end, but how are you combining the, for lack of a better term, science?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always working with my clients lab work from their primary care doctor, their OB/GYN, their gynecologist, or even their endocrinologist as well too. So I'm always incorporating lab work that they're having done with their provider. And there are still things absolutely that need to go through a medical doctor, you know, prescriptions and whatnot. They're licensed providers to be able to write prescriptions for thyroid medication and making adjustments to those doses and whatnot. And so the work that I do with some of the individuals who come into my practice in my world is helping almost coach them, sometimes almost to the point of role playing for those conversations, because some of the people who come to me have been gaslit and dismissed and felt so defeated for so long that they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go back to my primary care doctor and ask again. She already said she wasn't going to adjust my prescription, right? And so it's actually helping to educate them on why it's important to make an ask, what's happening with their medication, you know, that their doctor prescribed, and how to go about communicating with their provider based on lab work, giving them some data points to reference, being able to help them synthesize and speak about their own data, how they're feeling, what they've tracked, what they've been experiencing, how to have those conversations with the provider so that they can still get the right support that they need from their primary care doc or whoever they're working with, as well as the support on my end of things for what their body needs.
Yeah. And then, kind of like a weird question, does it really, when you have your patients on a really great regimen and everything, how much does that help when they're easing into peri and then full blown menopause when things are more balanced?
Oh my God, it's life changing for people. I had a client graduate recently who started crying on our call, telling me how life changing the work had been for her and how she feel like she got her life back, her marriage back, presence with her kids back. She's got two teenage daughters who are going to be out of the house in a few years, and she really wants to cherish that time with them. And so the it it is such an integral part of preparing for that natural decline in our hormones, because we can't change it. We're all going to go through, if you are a woman and you've got hormones, you're going to go through perimenopause, you're going to go through menopause, right? Your hormones are going to naturally start declining with age, and perimenopause is the 8 to 10 year period, for people who don't know, leading up to menopause. And the science is split. They don't know exactly when it starts occurring, but they say in some women it's actually as early as mid 30s. I'm 39. I'm absolutely seeing symptoms of perimenopause right now in my own life. And so this work is so instrumental into proactively supporting the body as hormone levels naturally start to decrease with age and time.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm freaking terrified of perimenopause because I'm 34. So, like, it could be in the next couple of years, and my PMDD, it makes me an absolute psychopath before my period hits. And it's just like, great, I'm already bad like once a month. Wait till I'm bad like permanently. Great, can't wait.
preventative approach. There are things that you can do preventatively
Exactly.
to support those levels. Estrogen, progesterone, they're going to decline. It's going to happen,
Hmm.
but we can support them. There are things that you can do to make sure that it's not as jarring to your system as those levels do start declining.
What would you say to a client that is like a potential client that's very like somebody listening that's like, it sounds good, but like it's still a little too like woo woo for me. Like, I don't know. Like, I totally believe that, in the more natural way, but I don't know if I'm ready to make the jump yet.
I think there's a couple of things that I would say. First and foremost, if you actually go back and look at the history of big pharma and how medication was developed in modern society, all of it originated with plants. It all
Yep.
started with plants. It's
Yep.
all derived from plants. The science came from plants. And in Chinese medicine, they have used plants to heal for literally thousands of years. And there is data and text. There are textbooks everywhere about it, about the medicinal powers of it, the studies on it, and how it has been used. So I would say that's just the foundation, first and foremost. And that can be fact checked anywhere. Ask your AI of choice the studies for you, they'll hand them to you. And so that's always something I like to explain to people and have a conversation with people about when they're like, supplements are a scam. I'm like, supplements without the right testing, as I said earlier, are a scam.
Absolutely.
People trying to blindly sell you anything on the internet that you might not need. Yeah, that's a scam. That's slimy and I don't like it. But herbs, plant medicine with intention when your body actually needs it, our original form of medicine is not woo woo if it is used in a really targeted, specific way for what your body needs. And the reality is, in the modern world, and this is a mental health podcast, we're all under stress all the time. Our phones are ringing, pinging, dinging, your emails going off, multiple emails, your Slack at work, your whatever, you're getting pulled into meetings, your mom's trying to call you while you're in the car in rush hour traffic. Like it's just constant overload and inputs everywhere. And so if we think about it from that way, if we're willing to recognize the demands of modern life and the taxes that we're paying, so to speak, with our nervous system and with our mental health, it's like, well, yeah, of course we're going to be depleted. Of course there are going to be reasons why we're not feeling 100%. And if we are operating in this way, then once in a while, we have to normalize as well, giving our body a little extra support that it needs to reset, right? And recalibrate so that we can continue on living our lives in the modern world where the inputs are not going to discontinue.
What is one thing that you hope somebody listening walks away with from, if nothing else, what is the one thing that someone listening you hope walks away from this episode?
You are the expert on your body, period. You are the expert on how you feel, what is normal for you, what you're experiencing, what's going through your head, how your body moves day to day. And do not let anyone tell you that you are normal if you are not feeling normal. And be an advocate for yourself because I promise you there are people out there that want to help you. And if you suspect something is off with your body that you spend all your time in and know better than anyone, then you are probably right.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Ashley, thank you so much for hopping on. I will make sure to have her Instagram handle, her how to get a hold of her if you guys want to chit chat with her. Obviously, if you follow me on Instagram, she will be collabed on the post, so it'll be real easy to find her and chat with her. Ashley, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, Heather, thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation, love the work that you're doing. So I really appreciate the time.
I appreciate that so much. And guys, we will catch you next week. And as always, stay hot, stay messy.